Hello, my darlings. Welcome to Becoming Abundant Podcast, the space where God and growth align, hosted by Anna Maria Jinga. This is the number one movement for freedom of the mind and heart. Let's start the conversation. Hello, my darlings, and welcome to another amazing week here on the Becoming Abundant podcast with your host, Anna Maria Jinga. And today, my darlings, we have a fabulous guest, my dear friend, fellow colleague, and inspiring woman, Sasha Alexa. So let me tell you a little bit about her and then we'll dive in. Alexa Sasha is a trauma informed results coach and narcissistic abuse healer who has coached for Tony Robbins and now leads her private practice, Your Highest Self Actualized. She helps high performance transform into sovereign beings who live with purpose, fulfillment, and freedom. And we know here on the podcast that we love freedom. Go team.
Yes.
Without the burnout or external validation, which is so powerful. This fall, she's launching From Survivor to Sovereignty, Queens Reclaiming Their Power After Narcissistic Abuse, a healing circle for women ready to break free from toxic relationships and reclaim their feminine power. My darlings, here we have Alexa Sasha.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. Anna is amazing. Like, she is one of the best things that I got out of our mutual working environment. She's one of the reasons why I look back and say, hey, I was there in that environment for a reason. It was to meet
Amen
Anna.
to that. Amen to that. I'm so happy to have you here. And as we were talking before we started recording, I feel like we took a long time to get here, but we're here and it's finally happening. So I'm so happy that I got to have you here. And as I am recording this, I'm thinking we're going to announce this new season of Becoming Abundant podcast with our episode because what we're going to talk today here is so powerful, so impactful, and it helps so much the identity of women leaders in their businesses and industries to actually show up in their best potential. So
Mm.
I have a few questions for you because I want you to share all the things with us. What was your biggest motivator, your biggest why to step into becoming a full on narcissistic abuse healer? What got you there?
What got me there was thinking about what I needed when I had first started to heal.
Mm,
And just so everybody knows, I have a narcissistic mother. Not the overt ones. When we think of narcissists, we often think of like Donald Trump, and maybe you think of Kanye West, or just those people that are brash and bold and rude, and they just interject in your sentences, or a boss that you didn't like. But there's another side of narcissism, and there's actually many types. And one of them is called covert. And in that word covert, there's the word cover. And that's exactly what they do. They mask their entitlement. They mask their meanness under pity or victimizing themselves. And so it was very difficult for me to understand even what I was going through as a young child. But I sought out therapy when I was in college because they told me, the college professors told me, hey, you want to be a clinical psychologist, you have to be in therapy yourself because therapists have therapists. It's a necessity. And when I went, it was like a whole can of worms opened up. And I was like, this is why I overwork myself. This is, I, I thought that I was living a normal life. I thought I had a normal childhood. And actually, that sharpness of the awareness led to me being very depressed. And at my lowest, I was in a hospital bed because I had attempted to take my own life. And
mm,
my mom looked down at me from on the bed and she was just like, so you were trying to leave me? So imagine coming from that background and trying to figure out how to gain your self esteem, how to reconnect with the divinity in yourself, because that gets lost when you're dealing with individuals or even just one individual that is not showing you goodness. You start to question whatever it is that you define, God, the universe, I call it the divine. You start to think, does that even exist? Because you're experiencing so much happiness, so much burden, so much you're experiencing that does not mirror that goodness that exists out here. And my own process of healing was different than a lot of people's, because the traditional way is to go to therapy, right? And I actually would get very triggered from therapy, because it was like we were rehashing the same thing over and over again, but just like new instances of this. Like, oh, this week she did this, which connects all the way back to my husband when she did this. And I was getting tired of that. So that's actually when I sought out a coach, because I knew I wanted to change my life. There were real ways that the trauma that I had gone through was affecting me. I was overweight. I was in a career that I knew was stressing me out, but I didn't know how to leave, which was being a high school special education teacher.
Yeah.
And I had just made it out of my mom's house, but I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I never had an identity. I never had freedom. And that's when I hired a coach, and he was a Tony Robbins coach. And he helped me because he had a lot of experience on his own with his own brother and father that were similar to my mom. And he himself was a teacher before becoming a Tony Robbins coach. So there was just so much synergy and similarity there. And going through the process of healing for me looked like doing brain stabilizing meditations, because at that time, even though I had left the house and was in my own space, the recurring thoughts, the ruminations about what was said, what I could have said better, it would exhaust me. I would wake up and be good for 5 minutes, and then it was like I was completely burnt out.
Yeah.
And so many people that have gone through things like this, they know what I'm talking about, that mental exhaustion, because you're just in a brain loop. Your brain has been wired to think a certain way. So I had to discover these things, discover things like, number one, I need to meditate, and what are the specific sounds that help me to meditate. Also, that healing comes through the body more effectively than anything else. Like, physiology is the way to activate your healing. And for me, that looked like doing hot yoga every single day for 90 minutes. And then it also,
Amazing.
yeah, it looked like doing like sacred moon practices and journaling and the hanging out with new people that were proving to me that actually I am safe, the world is safe, people love me. There's more out there than what I had experienced. So when you ask me what led to me becoming a narcissistic abuse healer, it was essentially knowing that this process doesn't need to be painful or long. It can be fun. It can be beautiful. It can be sacred. And it actually needs to be that, because you can't do more of what hurts you to get you better. Like, you can't overthink your way
Yes.
into healing. You can't isolate your way into healing. But that's kind of the traditional way.
Yep.
So it's understanding that what's been out here hasn't been like the remedy for me and other women, and actually giving women what they need.
Mm. Giving women what they need. Amen, honey. Because we forget, just like you said, we're so awesome. Awesome. We're so awesome, but we're also
We are.
so often trained to see things a certain way and just take them as our reality, when in fact they're affecting us. Our
Mm,
healing is meant to be sustainable, it's meant to
mm,
support us, it's meant to fill us and our cup more. And a
mm-hmm,
lot of the healing, and I resonate so much with what you said, because a few years ago, I outgrew my therapist. I found myself
mm,
in a space where my relationship wasn't as fabulous as we wanted. So I went to the therapist to talk it out. And she told me, you need to divorce. This is unacceptable. You can't do anything. And I found myself coaching her through that. I'm like, but I wonder,
Mm.
why should I divorce? Why is this actually important? And $200 later, and no results later, I walked out to my car and I'm like, oh, so that's what it feels to outgrow your therapist. Great. Let's
Yeah.
do something different. That's the thing when trauma informed people are not doing their jobs, or maybe, just
Yeah.
maybe, they're actually not trauma informed or not
Mm.
properly informed.
Yes.
Because you and I both know how we take care of our clients. No one comes
Mm-hmm.
to us and leaves worse or heavier or burdened.
Right.
Everyone's well taken care of.
Mm.
That's one of the
Absolutely.
things we do. So when you think of women, because I love that you said something so powerful, you give women back what they need. What are some things that you always focus on in your sessions, in your workshops, in working with women yourself?
Mm. There's a lot because
I
number
imagine.
one, I think the number one thing for women is expression, self
Mm,
expression, authentic self expression, not the way that you're supposed to act, but the way that you are.
yeah,
And having that safe space to be heard and held in whatever it is that you are letting out, releasing in that moment. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be soft. It could be because we're women, but if it's not, that also comes from us because we're women, we're dynamic beings. So that understanding that authentic self-expression is one of the biggest things to give women came from my own experience of, all right, I did not end my life right, and I was actually heartbroken when I was in that hospital bed because I was like, oh my goodness, my, I'm returning back to the life that I have, and like
mm,
now people know,
yeah,
right? That I was
yeah.
so sad about it. And the only thing that really helped me was the next semester I was in college, I took an art class, a painting class. And the professor day one was like, well, I don't give out A's. And I'm looking at my 4.0 GPA and the fact that I now can't get out of this class because the deadline passed. And I was just like, what am I going to do? I took this class for fun. What am I going to do? All into this class, and it had like a final project, and I spent hours on that final project. And she looked at me and she looked at the project and she was like, you are definitely not a realistic painter. What she said, this is one of the most incredible art pieces that I've seen. And she took a picture of it and she put it in her art collection to show other students. And it was the process of going so deep into expressing myself through art that helped me to heal. And
Mm,
so that's when I learned that the opposite of depression is not happiness, right? If you are depressed, you're holding things in. The opposite of depression is expression.
mm. I
And so
love that.
that's my number one gift. Like how do I help this woman that is in front of me express herself and what needs to come out of her? And
Mm,
then there's even more things to that because oh my goodness. As women, we are expected to work so hard and we work so hard and we don't even think about all of the work that we're doing. The both the physical labor, but then also the mental labor of staying on top of different tasks as mothers, as wives, as sisters, as
yeah,
daughters. We don't even think about it. So a lot of the things that I love to give women are to help them to heal without them necessarily having to do anything.
yeah,
So I connect them to like sound healing that they can play while they're in bed. Just listen to it on their headphones and receive healing. Things like that so that it's not like you have to take up a certain time and a certain amount of effort. Actually, it's more about being in the receptive energy of what is good.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Depression is the opposite of expression. Come on, stop
Yes.
it. That's like, it made
Hmm.
me remember a time when I was going through my deepest, darkest moments, and I used to be back in Romania, and I was doing ballet, and that was the only time the mind was quiet because I was expressing myself through that. So I am a
Hmm.
clear example that what you're saying is very valid and very true because the more we express ourselves, the more grounded we are, the more present we are, and the more free we are. So when you're thinking of all of that, when you think of, just like your brand says, the highest self actualized, what do you want to see in these women that come to you after they leave a session or after they leave an experience with you? What do you want to leave them with?
Freedom. Freedom
Mm,
to be. That's why I named
amen.
my mastery circle what it's named. It's called From Survivor to Sovereignty. Queens reclaiming their power after narcissistic abuse. There's a reason why sovereignty is in there because that means that you're not bound by anything. You are
Yes.
now able to choose. You recognize your power and you live it out. So that's
Mm,
the number one thing for women is to recognize what has been taking away your power
yeah.
and where have you been giving it away and how can you disconnect from that. And
Yeah.
that takes accountability not only from yourself, but you probably do need a community of people around you that are holding you accountable, because
Yeah.
even the small steps of, let's say you're like, you know what, healing somatically, I'm going to engage in these yoga practices, or I'm going to receive massages, every one massage every 2 weeks. This is really going to help me. And your mind is ready for that, but your body is not. Your habits are not ready for that, and so you fall back into the cycle that you're in if you're not in a new environment of people who are there to witness you be the best version of you. So then when
Yeah.
you show up the next week and we ask you like, hey, how have things been going? You committed to this. Did you do that? And you say no. We're not going to be like, you know, that's all right. When you're like, no, honey, this
Why?
is for, yeah, why? Why didn't you engage in the fun thing, the necessary thing to help
Yeah.
you? Why didn't you opt into that? Why did you give your power away? That's a whole learning experience. But we've been trained to give our power away as women and just as people since we are young.
Mm,
So it does take a while to learn that. And that's why it's so important. You may not be able to relocate. You may not be able to completely disconnect from certain family members or a toxic ex or something like that. But you can opt into a community of people that actually see you for who you are meant to be and encourage that out of you.
mm. It's so true. And it's like that saying, you get to surround yourself with people that speak life back into you. And
Yes.
that in itself just gets to hold you. I know we were talking earlier about how important it is to have better people around us. And if we can't
Mhm.
in the home, at least the circles we surround ourselves with, the yoga studios, the churches, the book clubs, the everything,
Mhm.
we have
Yeah.
so much more control over who we accept. It doesn't end where you see a limitation. And it's so powerful
Mhm.
that you get to teach that to women. Women that come to you feel safe. Women that come to you feel the freedom that you inspire them because you live it yourself. So
Yes.
question now for the self leaders and women in leadership that are listening to us. What is the most important thing as a woman in our leadership roles to be aware of so that we can step fully into our power?
I would say our triggers.
Tell me more.
I,
That's
I would
powerful.
say we really do need to be aware of our triggers and our past history, our
Mm,
backgrounds, because that is where it starts to seep in the tendency to give your power away. So, for example, if you know you're coming from a background where your father discouraged you from speaking up, and now you give your presentations at work, but you're starting to realize that if somebody's saying something and you disagree, you can't really articulate that even though you are in a leadership role. That's important to know. That's important to know. Where is that? What's that limiting belief behind that? What is holding you back from that? Where did that come from? And that can be worked through. I mean, Anna knows how to work through that. I know how to work through that as
we're
coaches.
awesome.
Yeah, well, awesome. That's the inner work to improve your external reality. But if you
Yes.
don't know what's going on in your inner world, you don't have that awareness of what your triggers are in your past history, then you're going to think it's normal to operate the way that you're operating. Or you might say, hey, I know that I need to step up more, but you won't know that you need to opt into tools or people that can help you. The answer exists. The answer always exists. You just gotta find
Yep.
it.
Amen. Amen. And sometimes we don't realize how quickly an answer can be found when we just look for it or
Yes.
ask the right question, such as, hey, what is actually holding me back? What is actually
Mm.
bothering me? What's going on that makes me feel like I'm sweaty? Like what whatever that is. Because the things are always behind. The things are always available for us. It's like that
Hmm.
saying in the Bible, going back to the Bible, seek and you shall find, ask and it will be given to you. Ask the
Yes.
right questions, seek
Oh
what
my
you
goodness.
need it, because that's
You
the
are,
thing.
yes, you are speaking so much truth right now because it's reminding me of that story of when Russia and the United States were both in the race to get to the moon first.
Yes,
And the question that the Americans asked was, well, how do we get a pen to write on space because of the anti gravity? Like, how do we get the pen to actually write for astronauts that will be in space? And so they collaborated with all these companies, and the company Bic was able to create a pen that would write in outer space. And
love it.
then when they met up with the Russian astronauts, they were like, well, how did you solve this problem? Because it was a whole competition. And they were like, well, our question wasn't how do we get a pen to write in space? Our question was just how do we write in space? And they just used a pencil. So if you don't ask yourself the right question, the answer is going to be
Brilliant.
really hard to get. You might go through a whole process that you didn't need to go through if you don't ask yourself the right question.
Oh,
And
perfect.
it's helpful to have somebody that has gone through something similar to what you've gone through because they have insight into what the right question is. You might be asking a question that is based off your disempowerment, where they would be able to tell you from their higher perspective what the right question is that you should ask yourself. That's
Yeah.
what coaching is all about.
Yeah. You just summed up a whole industry in less than 2 minutes. Ba-dum-bum. I love it. Love it. And it's so important to remember that we have all of this power as leaders. When we talk about self-leadership, we have all of this power within us. There's not one thing that we can gain from outside. God made us like this. God gave us all of the
Mm,
tools. And if we don't have the tools, we have the resources around us and the
mm.
ability to choose those resources. We forget that we actually have the ability to choose something different. You don't like
Yes.
the job, you can change it. You don't like the business, you can shift. You don't like the
Yes.
family, you can change it. You don't like your body, go work out, go to
Hmm.
a nutritionist, go to a yoga class, go on a walk. When
Yeah.
you have your clients coming to you and saying, I don't like this or I feel stuck, what's the first thing you tell them?
Oh my goodness. You're reminding me of a client that I had, and she was an older woman and she wanted to be able to utilize all of these online courses that she had purchased because she had purchased thousands of dollars of them.
Wild.
And she comes to me, and that's her outcome for the coaching session. I'm like ready to break it down. And she kept on saying, I can't, I can't do it. I can't schedule it. I can't pay attention. I said, hold on, wait. Can you really not? Like, is that really true? And so I brought her attention to her own language, the way that she was speaking about the possibility of doing this. And she was like, wait, actually, I could if I wanted to. There's just these challenges.
Mm,
And that is like the gateway in to, as you were saying, it's like an illusion of being trapped, or illusion of being stuck. That's not really real. It's covered behind resistance or even fear.
mm,
And we have to recognize where that is. And listening to the thoughts in your head are the best way to recognize that. Or if you're articulating it out loud, because if you're really saying, I can't do this, I can't quit, I hate this job, but oh my gosh, this person in my life is so horrible, but they're meant to be here. If you're saying that and you're not recognizing that you are an infinite being that has possibilities, and yeah, the alternative might be freaking scary and might not be like the easiest thing for you to do. But if you are able to recognize your choice, your sovereignty, that is the only way that you could get to change. Like, that's the only way. There is no
exactly.
other way. You
There's
have to
no
first
other way.
accept you have the power
Yes.
to change.
Yes.
And it reminds me of back to my personal story where I knew I needed to leave my mom's house. And I didn't, I couldn't even think of how. And there's this Sia song called Courage to Change. And it's literally her repeating over and over again, have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? And I would just listen to that in the shower. Sometimes I would be crying listening to it. And one day I just heard a voice inside me say yes. And when
Oof.
that voice inside me finally said yes, that's when the door started to open up. That's when I started to recognize, oh, wait, I have a friend that lives in Philadelphia that needs a roommate right now. Why don't I just explore that option?
Nice. Oh,
Couldn't even see that opportunity because I didn't have the courage to make the
yeah.
change because I didn't know that I could make the change.
Mm, that just gave me a million goosebumps. Like, oh, the little voice inside of you when constantly you're asking, do I have the courage to change? Yes. That's it.
Yes,
We
yes.
have everything, the courage to change, the power to make the step, the freedom. We were born to be free. Everything
Mm,
else is a social construct that we've accepted as our reality when in fact it's not. So I have
and
one last question before we wrap up, my darling. I know I could talk to you for hours, and probably this is just part one of a series of us talking. I
so,
love that
because
idea. I hope you do too,
I,
because I want that. Um,
yes, I do. I can't believe this is the end.
I
It's going
know.
so
I'm
fast.
like 3 more hours later. I know that you're launching this whole space, this whole women's circle in fall. Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, it is huh, probably the most passionate me thing that I have put out there because I was always told in school that I had too many interests. And with that, you kind of reduce yourself and that comes with having to choose one career over the other and things like that. But with my healing process, I realized, oh no, you need many things to heal because you're healing on multiple levels. We're healing
Yeah.
on the level of the mind, but also on the body, which the body keeps the score of what you have gone through. So you should tap into your body to release trauma. That's just
Yeah.
scientifically proven. And then there's healing on the level of the soul to make sure that you don't repeat these things over and over again.
Mm.
So that involves many different modalities because, again, it goes back to, yeah, mindset coaching, but then it also goes into things like EFT tapping. It goes into things like guided meditation, breath work. It goes into things like creating art. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm partnering with many different specialists to be able to come into different sessions. One of them is an art therapist who does work around narcissistic abuse because of his own experience. And he leads painting classes where he helps people release their trauma through the other woman that I
Amazing.
partner with. She's a somatic therapist that has years of experience in qigong and in breath work and in trauma release exercises. All of that makes the space that I'm creating holistic so that when you are done, it is as the title says, from survivor to sovereignty. I
Mm.
do not want, after you spend time in this sacred space, for you to then come back to me and say, hey, this is part of me that I didn't heal.
Mm.
And that's something that's different than
Uh,
what we've been told.
So, before we wrap up today, I have one last question, and it's about this power of getting into sovereignty. And I know this fall you're launching the Circle for Women. So, tell us a little bit about it and how can women connect with you? Because this is so important.
Oh my goodness. So the circle that I'm launching for women, first of all, there's a preview of it going on right now. And it's called the
Mm,
Cycle Stops Here Conference.
yes.
And it's been every single Saturday in August, completely free, in which I have organized different speakers to come in and talk about things like people pleasing, how to heal your body through nature, somatic therapists. We had a Native American flute player come in and bless us
Oh,
with
that's
her the
amazing.
sound vibrations that were so healing that you could feel like people were saying they were literally crying, and it was just a beautiful moment. These are the types of things that have really helped women to heal. It helped me to heal, but also have helped my clients to heal in my one-on-one coaching. And that's why I'm creating a group around it because it's all about what I mentioned, the accountability of having other women like you that have gone through the same experience, but also creating an environment of fun and play. It does not take further rumination, overthinking, or isolation in order to heal. It takes community and it takes being coached and prompted the correct way. And so a part of this is also art because I have been partnering with an art therapist who his whole work is around helping people release trauma after narcissistic abuse. And he's had galleries of art from what he's created, and he helps his clients do so. So I'm inviting him into our mastery circle space. There's also an amazing somatic therapist that I am partnering with as well. And she knows the trauma release exercises to help you really release what no longer serves you, but also the breath work as
Mm,
well. And it's about understanding that healing doesn't come from just talking about it. Healing comes from embodying a higher version of yourself that really takes you tapping into your body, your spirit, your mind, your soul.
mm,
And
everything.
that's every single thing. That's the space that I am creating. So if you are open to being in that space, all you got to do is email me. I
Love
I'm
it.
available. Yes, I'm available. You just send an email to Alexa Sasha 369 at gmail.com, and I'm
I
here.
love it. I love it. I'll add all the information in our description box below on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere where we're at. And I am so excited for women to surrender themselves to the processes that you get to put together for them, because healing happens in many layers and healing happens in so many options, and you get to offer that, and you get to create
Hmm.
these spaces for women to just show up as they are. So I'm really, really excited for people to come and experience you, because I know how you are. We've worked together and I
Mm,
know you're fabulous and magnificent and magnetic and powerful. I want other women to see this too, because it's
thank
so
you.
important. Just like you said, the community is all that matters. So
Yes, it is.
thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll talk for part two and part three and part four and part seasons.
Part
It
15
has
and
been
ongoing.
and ongoing, nonstop. We should just put a side note of making a podcast together. Maybe, maybe. There we go.
Yes.
I love this. Thank you so very much, Alexa, for
Mhm.
joining, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your heart with us. I know the community will be blessed to just listen to your words and feel life being spoken back into them by you. And I'm going to have all
Mm.
of the information for you guys. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining for another powerful episode. And until next week, my loves, remember to stay salty and bright.